Hi, I'm Blake, and welcome to Crash Course Literature, where today we're diving into David Sedaris' short story, 6 to 8 Black Men. It's got cultural confusion, blind hunters, and the most bizarre Christmas traditions you've ever heard of. So buckle up. Plot summary. Sedaris opens up with a story about how in the United States, blind people can legally hunt. Yes, hunt, with guns and assistance. This sets the tone. Strange but true. While on a trip to the Netherlands, Sedaris learns about the Dutch version of Santa Claus, Sinterklaas. Instead of elves or reindeer, Sinterklaas rolls deep with, you guessed it, 6 to 8 black men. Their names, unimportant. Their behavior, unpredictable. Their role, enforcing good behavior, allegedly with threats of kidnapping. Sedaris contrasts this with the jolly Coca-Cola version of Santa we know in the US. A man who rewards bad behavior with coal, lame. In the Netherlands, bad kids don't just get coal, they get abducted to Spain. That's right, Spain. Symbolism. Let's talk about the blind hunter. Let's pause and talk about that blind hunter. It's more than a quirky anecdote. The blind hunter is a symbol, a stand-in for how cultural practices can seem terrifying or illogical when viewed from the outside. Think about it. From the Dutch perspective, blind hunters sound as absurd as 6 to 8 black men do from Sedaris' American point of view. But both are real, and both are normalized locally. Post 9/11, this idea hits differently. In a world obsessed with security, blind men with firearms feels like a metaphor for a society stumbling into danger, armed and unseeing. The hunter isn't just a guy in the woods, he's an emblem of fear, confusion, and maybe misplaced confidence. Themes: cultural relativity and the absurd. Sedaris' main theme is cultural relativity, the idea that what's normal to one group can be completely alien to another. He also critiques the absurdity of tradition, whether it's kids getting kidnapped to Spain or blind men in deer stands. Sedaris asks us to question how traditions develop and why we cling to them. But he's not just making fun of other cultures, he's also pointing the spotlight back at us. Our version of Christmas, with the North Pole sweatshop, flying reindeer, and voyeuristic Santa, is just as bizarre, maybe even more so. Expert voice. Literary critic Robert McLaughlin writes, Sedaris' short stories often walk the line between satire and ethnography. In other words, he's just trying to be funny. He's also documenting what it means to live in a globalized, postmodern world where everyone thinks that they're weird is normal.
Connection of Brian Campbell, The Hero's Journey. Now let's toss this into the Hero's Journey blender for Joseph Campbell, our hero, Sedaris. Here's a call to adventure, an invitation to understand Dutch Christmas. He crosses the threshold by engaging with the Dutch narrator. He learns the truth about Santa's intimidating entourage, and he's returned transformed, with a new absurd perspective on his own culture. Ta-da, it's the hero's journey, but with awkward cultural exchanges and holiday horror stories. And Fry. Sedaris works with him within the comedy mode, where misunderstandings reveal deeper truths and ultimately human connection. His satire isn't cruel, it's exploratory. Contemporary connection, race, representation, and tradition. Let's talk about the very awkward part, the 6 to 8 black men. In the Netherlands, these figures are based on Zwarte Piet, a tradition with deep colonial roots and a modern legacy of blackface. Through Sedaris sidesteps his darker history, it's impossible to ignore today. The controversy over Zwarte Piet ties into the global conversations about racial representation, systematic biases, and the politics of tradition. In America, we're having our own debates about Confederate statues, team mascots, and even who gets to tell what stories. Sedaris' essay gently nudges us to consider, what are we holding on to, and why? Historical contents, globalization, and post-9/11 fear. Written in the early 2000s, 6 to 8 Black Men reflects a world freshly reeling from 9/11. There's a low level of paranoia in there. Blind men hunting, strange foreign customs, fear of the unknown. Sedaris never names this fear, but it's there. Under the laughter, the world had changed. Travel felt different, cultural exchange was more charged. Race and American identity. Who gets to be Santa? Let's be blunt. The story uses the figures of 6 to 8 black men to highlight how race and power intersect in cultural narratives. In the US, Santa is a white, beloved old man. In the Dutch version, the enforcers are black. The shift is unsettling, especially to an American audience, conditioned to associate race with danger, subjection, or otherness. Sedaris doesn't dwell on this explicitly, but the racial optics are impossible to ignore. Final thoughts. Laughing at ourselves. Sedaris gives us permission to laugh, not just at others, but at ourselves. His short story asks, what if we're all just blind hunters in the woods, doing our best, guided by traditions we barely understand, whether it's 6 to 8 black men, a red-suited man in a sleigh, or an actual blind man with a rifle. Maybe the real lesson here is normal is weird, and weird is normal.
Thanks for watching Crash Course Literature. Be kind to your local Sinterklaas, question your traditions, and maybe leave out more than just cookies this year.
Special thanks to our patrons. Until next time, don't forget, read weird stuff.